let's talk about Grit's marketing design, and ideas. How about that? Grit is a living card game or an extendable card game. And so normally, I think a lot of people are accustomed to TCG as the kind of acronym for trading card games. So that is pretty mainstream, and that's probably consistent of most of the games that most people know about. Pokemon is a trading card game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a trading card game. Magic the Gathering is a trading card game. And that kind of, the list goes on and on. And Grit is a card game, but it's not a trading card game. It's like, I want to call it a living card game, but I think that's pretty specific. So I'm going to call it an expandable card game. Or an extensive card game? No, an expandable card game, an ECG. I think Grit is an ECG. And the reason for that is I have played a lot of card games in my life. From growing up, I am 32 now. Is that right? 32 now. And so I have grown up since I was, as far as I can remember, I loved card games. I collected Pokemon cards. I collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards when they first started coming out. I collected Neopets cards. I collected Harry Potter cards. Not sports cards. I didn't really do those. But everything that had a card game, I was probably somewhere, I probably collected it. Or I had like a box full of them. I remember I had a lot of Digimon cards and Zatch Bell cards. The list goes on, man. When I was younger, I had like a lot of random ones because people knew I liked them. And they were like, oh, I found this pack at Toys R Us or 7-Eleven or something. And they would just hand them to me and I'd be like, cool, I liked it. And so eventually I got into Magic the Gathering, and that's a trading card game. And so that is, you buy packs, you buy booster boxes, you buy a bunch of products. You can buy singles of cards, but the idea was that you would buy packs and you would open them and you would get the cards you wanted, or you would hope to get cards you wanted. And then I found out that you could buy cards for singles, like per card, you could buy the ones you wanted. And so I did that. I remember I built my first deck that way, and that was a goblin deck, a really, really cheap $20 goblin deck in college that I really liked, and that was that. So that was fun. I had a lot of great years with that, and then I started growing up and a lot less time for those things, and my priorities changed, and I had other hobbies and passions until eventually, come like 5 or 6 years ago, I really wanted to get back into it. I got into board games a lot within the past 7 or 8 years, Dungeons and Dragons, and now back into the trading card game space, but I've always been there. So really, in the past little bit, I'm gonna say the past few years, I've recently got into collecting starter decks for games, and like a lot of games. Like if you've heard of it, I potentially have a starter deck of it. So I get at least 2 starter decks, that way I can be like, yeah, we tried it, yeah, we played it, and now I'm gonna put that into like a collection, like almost like a binder, but it's more of like a box I have with a bunch of these. And some of my best presents from my partner have been like these random decks that card games I've never heard of. So that's pretty cool. And I find that very fun. However, what I found out from this is that starter decks often are not the whole experience. And I understand that. When you buy a starter deck, the assumption is that this is kind of a taste. And the taste is like, hey, I want to try Magic the Gathering, but I don't really want to like do anything too complicated or do anything that requires a lot of like upkeep or whatever. So here's a starter deck. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, and it gets the point across. This is how the game can play. And that's fine. But then I played Flesh and Blood, and Flesh and Blood has the best starter deck experience I've ever experienced. Yeah. And I had so much fun because it felt complete. I'm not saying it was like perfect, but it was like this hero that I've purchased a deck for, Blitz deck, in case you're familiar with Flesh and Blood, so it's a smaller deck size and a quicker game. You get a whole experience. You get to experience, what does this character want to do? And the deck does that thing. And it does it, I think, very well. I'm not a professional or competitive Flesh and Blood player by any metric, but yeah, that was a great experience. I had a lot of fun. And so I want to replicate that. With Grit, I think that I want to move away from all these other trading card game-like aspects where it becomes like buy things until you get the things you want. I want Grit to be a game that people play and want to play. I understand that making things not available at first also retains players. because that's a part of me too. I like collecting, and the more I collect, or the more that there's a need to collect, the more I want to invest in the game. So I understand that aspect of the game. I'm kind of losing players or losing people to being like, well, I can just buy the cards I want, and then I have my deck, and then I can play the game, and that's it. And it's like, I understand that that could be a problem later on down the line, but I don't think I care, because I want to facilitate a community or a game where people want to play the game and get better and try little different combinations, rather than hoping they get the cards they want. And I want to be clear, because I think that within the niche community that is the HTCG community, that's homemade trading card game community, I think it's very fun to open packs and cards and get a rare, an ultra rare, or a legendary, or whatever it's called in every game. Because getting that hit is fun. It's not as fun to me as to other people, but I like the excitement of it just as much as anybody else. Collecting Pokemon cards with my son, and whenever we get a hit or a new card that we don't have, it's exciting. I don't particularly care about the value of it, but it's exciting to get that. And that's something that can't be replicated with buying a pack of cards that you know the contents of. So how is it going to work with Grit, now that I've kind of explained my gripes with the other stuff and what I've come from? With Grit, I think that a starter set would make the most sense. So a starter set would be like a starter deck, but it'd be for 2 decks at once. So that way when you buy it, or you get it, or whatever, you can play with somebody immediately. You can take it out, you can shuffle up the cards and go, boom, we're ready to play. And I think that would probably be between, remember, these archetypes and all this stuff, these names are temporary. It would be between the good guys and the bad guys. So you'd get 3 good guys and 3 bad guys, and it would have like a cool name. It'd be like the Outcasts versus the rich kids. I don't know, something like that. Like it'd be like that. It'd be like a clash of them. And so you would then get all the cards that are associated with each hero, like their kit, and you get 3 of them at once. So because that's a whole deck, right? 30 cards is a deck in Grit, and so you get 3 heroes at once, and you'd get 3 villains at once, quote unquote villains. And so you'd have this starter deck where you kind of get a collection of these 2 decks that can fight against each other and technically can be mix and matched, but that's more of like an archetypal thing. It's like you wouldn't mix these cards, I guess. And so that would, I think, give everybody a starting point to be like, okay, I've got let's see, 5, 10, 15, 30 different cards in this starter set that can make me these 2 different decks. Now I want to expand on them. And so I think that selling either more starter kits like that, where it's already like 2 decks that are different, that are against each other, makes sense. I also think that selling hero packs individually makes sense. So that would mean like the hero card, and then every card in that hero's kit. So if you haven't checked out the hero spotlights, it's basically all of those cards. It's 5 different cards that are tied to that hero, that function with them really well, but also synergize with the rest of that hero's archetype. So yeah, that's what I think I want to do, is I want to make it so you can buy any hero you want at any time, and then you can just slot that into your collection, and boom, you've got it. And this really comes from Ashes Reborn. Ashes Reborn is a card game, but it's marketed as a board game, and you would see it in the board game section. But it is a card game with dice, and it's run very well. And the way that they do things is they sell a starter kit that has all the starter cards you need. So like action cards, it has a bunch of decks in it of characters, and it has all the dice you need to get started, which is the dice in that game are resources. And then they have a ton of singular hero kits that have like cards for that hero that you can then put into your collection and use the other dice and other cards to make it better and use it. So I think I want something like that. Realistically, I think that is something I want. That's the plan. And so that's why I would call it an extendable card game rather than a trading card game, because you're not looking to trade cards in Grit. You're just looking to expandable, not extendable. You're looking to expand your card game. You're not looking, and your collection, you're not looking to trade it. And I think that that would make it a more fun experience for everybody, because when you bought something, you could really show anybody around you the game, and the other person doesn't have to start collecting. They could just be like, oh, hey, that deck you showed me with the bird, the boar, and the skunk, that was cool. Where can I get that? Like, oh, you can buy each of them individually and get all their cards, or you can buy like the starter deck that has these guys. And it doesn't become something where it's like, well, you got to like either buy them online, which is, I guess, what this is. You can make a deck and then buy it online, or you can like get a box and open packs. But you can get it. You can just, if you want it, you can get it. And I really, really like that. Trading cards over time are expensive, and they just take a lot of time to get. And that's not something I have in my life anymore. Responsibilities, that'll do that. So I think that my game should reflect what I would want a game to give to me. That's something like Ashes Reborn, where I can get all the cards I want in one product rather than trying to find it or trying to outsource it to a third party and buy them that way. So once again, not a bash on trading card games at all. It's just not what I want Grit to be. So, I'm not looking to make money off this. I don't know if that's clear. Maybe this whole video is like, how do I make money? I want this game to just be something that people can play and something people have access to. Print and plays, standalone products, if ever, and like starter decks. And so that's what I want it to be. I want this game to be accessible for everybody, because I like the game. I'm very passionate about it, and I want to show other people the game. And if they're passionate or like it, then they can get as much as they want. I think let's caveat all of this. Let's caveat all of this with, I think that Grit could have a pack system of some kind, but it would only be like alternate arts or only like foils. Like right now, there's no way to get foil cards or alternate cards or anything like that. But if you bought a pack of cards, you might get like a random assortment of foils to add. And then that could be that. Like, it's more of like buying like skins, where it's like in mobile games and in video games. You don't buy, ideally, you don't buy things in the game, like microtransactions, to get better, ideally. You just buy skins and different looks for it. So I think that like having like beta art or like hand-drawn figures, or in a really cool world, in a super, super cool world, you have like different artists from different games or different companies or different people who draw an art for a character, and you can have like alternate arts, and that's cool. And I think having those kinds of packs where it's just all like 3 to 5 or 10 or whatever alternate arts that you could get would be a cool random pack opening kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's it. So moral of the Dev Diary is, Grit is an expandable card game. I want it to be accessible for everybody. And if there was such a thing as packs in Grit, it would be for alternate arts or foils or holographics or something. So I think that's what I want Grit to be. So thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, thank you so much. If you want to like the video and comment or whatever, let me know any of your thoughts. And yeah, that'd be cool. And if you didn't make it to the end of the video, got them, I guess. You got them. And yeah, wherever you are in the world, have a great day, night, weekends, morning, whatever. It's clearly cloudy where I am today. It's not great. It's a little rainy. And I hope that I get to see you in the next video. So, see ya.